Hello, teachers, and welcome back to Teachers Help Teachers. I'm your host, Esther Yoon, and with me today is a panel of teachers. I invited this panel today because I want to talk about remote learning with various teachers. So we have Erica Lundy representing a veteran upper grade teacher, and we have Rachel Bonilla representing a new teacher, new to teaching, and entering the workforce as a remote learning teacher or running a remote learning classroom for the first time. And then we have Zarina Macia. She represents the student teacher, right? Because we will have those during the remote learning year as well. And I'm your host, like I said, Esther Yoon, and I'll represent the veteran primary teacher in this panel. So welcome, teachers. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. So let's start with the first question. You know, we're starting the year remotely, like I said. Erica, what did you do to prepare specifically for remote learning?
Well, as teachers, we are people who are planners and organizers, and we want to have all the information so that we can pass it clearly and effectively to our students and their parents, right, and their guardians. And so the challenge for me with remote learning is that very quickly I found out, as all of you did as well, is that there was very little information, very little information for us as teachers to go on. Everything was flexible, in flux, and we had no idea what was going to happen, right? I mean, I know in our district, we transferred to remote learning, over the course of 2 days. It was, okay, ready, go. And so now I know, right? So for this particular kind of section of remote learning, now that we had a little time, the first thing I had to do was orient myself emotionally and mentally that this was not going to look the same as the class I would typically teach, right? I mean, I am a creature of habit. Even though I improve for best practice every year, I like to have things done the same way. I had a plan for every year when I go back and set up my room, and that's just not the case. So mentally, I think one of the most important parts is preparing yourself for that the idea that it's not going to be the same. And so by giving myself that flexibility and that patience, I've actually started to try and do baby steps for my class each day. So rather than like go in and set up the room and go, because we have to remember we're still in the midst of a pandemic here, right? We have to take care of ourselves as well. And the idea is we really don't have a lot of information. School districts are trying to sort it out as fast and efficiently as possible, and then pass that information to us, and then we have to pass it out to students and parents. So I just try and do a little bit for my class each day, and as an overachiever, that's really hard for me because I want to get in, I want to get it done and move on. But really, I've been taking a lot of time for self-care for myself, being active because we sit in front of a computer screen all day, really trying to go on walks in my neighborhood safely, but then devoting small breaks to setting up my digital resources like Google Classroom for my class, my Schoology course, the things that we can control, right? We know students need some platform to access the work that you're going to give or assign and some way to communicate with you. So I've been able to set up my Google Classroom and my Schoology page, which is required by my district. That's our LMS, our learning management system. And starting to put kind of activities and organize how I might want to do it. Knowing full well, though, that I may need to change it because something may come down tomorrow that is, a new ordinance from our district. And knowing that it's okay because it's not wasted time. I'll be able to use it in some way, but knowing and giving myself that kind of understanding ahead of time. The other thing that I did right away was as soon as I got my roster, I reached out to our office staff and got a spreadsheet, a digital copy of all of my students' guardians' email addresses. I wanted to be able to communicate with families immediately. I already have begun communicating with them, and the school year doesn't even start for another couple days. I felt it was necessary to get parents on board immediately. And the reason I asked for a digital copy was because it's way easier to copy and paste those email addresses into your, Outlook or Gmail or however you communicate, Remind, whatever app you choose to use, or whatever platform, rather than having to type in email addresses. The other way that I got communication from my families, because those email addresses that the office sent me, while they're a great start, they may not be current and updated. So as soon as my school put out their website with back to school information, I put up my own page and said, parents, if you're in Mrs. Lundy's class, please send me an email immediately with the email you check most. And then I checked that email address against the one that the school provided me. You'd be surprised how often those are different. And if you're sending out communication like Zoom, Zoom information, or Google Classroom login, or any information that parents need, you want to make sure that they're getting it, and that they're getting it, quickly and in a reasonable amount of time. So now that I have my email for my class, I'm starting to send them updates. I know parents want information, but we don't have a whole lot. So I'm pretty upfront with my parents about that, and say, I really, really understand that you want information. I'm going to give you as much as I can as soon as I get it, but we have to be flexible, and just like you would want me to be understanding for your family in this time of the pandemic, I have a family too, and I want to make sure everybody's getting taken care of. So, here's my office hours. This is the time I'm available to respond, and I ask that you respect that. So really just about being patient with yourself and with families, starting communication immediately, and then doing those little things each day that you can do. Control the things you can and let go of the things that you can't. I think that's kind of my 2 cents to begin with. As far as curriculum and everything, I think we got to just give ourselves some grace and some patience, because even as a veteran teacher, I have no idea what things are going to look like. I'm starting to come up with different pieces of how I want it to be structured, looking at the fall, at the spring, and seeing what was successful. But my school district is still putting in programs into place. They're still writing content and curriculum. So the best that I can do is to start putting those structures in place of expectations for students, and then plug in that content as we go. And be as open and honest and upfront with families as I can.
Erica, you were talking about content, and thankfully, at least in our local district, on their website, they already published the Smart Start 25 days lessons. So check for that, teachers. If your district is opening up the school year with Smart Start days, see if your instructional web pages in your district have, let's see if they published that for you. Hopefully they did. So Rachel, we heard from Erica with her preparation. Do you see any common preparations too, as she did, or do you want to add to anything more?
Yeah, I see a lot of similarities.
Mm-hmm.
So similar to how she described, I think teachers are people who are used to happening to life in the classroom, and right now the classroom's happening to us. And yeah, I definitely take a lot of breaths. I breathe a lot because I'm overwhelmed. Not only is this the first time we've ever done this in history, distance learning at this level, but it's also the first time I've ever done this. I've never even been to the first week of school as an adult, observing a mentor teacher. So I definitely reach out to a lot of teachers and say, hey, what have you done? Or reach out to the teacher previously so I don't repeat content that the students might have. I don't want to bore them. I want to engage them with new material, new content. And definitely, I actually took it from a curriculum perspective, just like how much content do I have to teach? And then looking at how much time I have and creating a lot of buffer time. So a lot of just open room, because I know it's not going to go as planned, and just being very flexible and just pulling out the most fun, the most engaging things, and looking for resources, on Teachers Pay Teachers, or looking to other teachers to say, how can I make this as imaginative or as creative, engaging for the students, so that although we're going through a pandemic, they still have a space where they still feel like it's as much like the real classroom as possible, you know, because they are kids and I don't want them to feel the chaos that I'm going through and that a lot of adults are going through. So I'm just trying to create or look for templates for kids to make selfies, like introduce yourself to everybody in the class, or like Instagram templates, and bringing that to the paper form and figuring out, okay, how am I gonna get access to their work? You know, is it gonna be tangible paper and they're gonna be uploading photos? We're gonna do multiple distributions throughout the year. So am I gonna physically collect it once a month or however often we have it? A lot of logistical things, but I'm trying to make it, I guess I came with the perspective that this is like a traditional classroom because literally that's all I've known for the past 4 years of my education. And then it's all like, oh, and it's now you're entering the workforce and it's completely not what you have prepared for. So
Yeah.
just making decisions like that. Sorry about that.
No, and Rachel, what I took away from what you were explaining, it's collaboration. Like, you know, reaching out to people or asking for help, rather, for people who might have a better grasp, or just sending it out there, right? Asking that question, and then, you know, as teachers, right, Erica, right, everyone, we do want to be there for each other. We are helpful in nature, and yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to give help, even though you may be new to teaching. You're digitally fluent more than other teachers who have done this for years. Let's assume, and yeah. So let's all do our part to help each other out. So yes, collaboration. Thank you, Zarina. What about you? Did you get a chance to explore the different learning platforms available to us at all? How did you prepare for remote learning in your way?
Well, I think my experience is a little different because I'm going into someone's classroom, so they're gonna have their own like learning model already made. Kind of what I've been doing is looking through I follow people on Instagram who like make different crafts and stuff. I just want to equip myself with enough materials to bring to the table to like help this remote learning more engaging, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
for students and stuff, and just ways to pretty much enhance the remote learning experience for whoever my mentor teacher will be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
I like that. Thank you. That's exciting, and you're going to be a great resource to your mentor teacher, definitely. So Erica, what is your remote learning model? I mean, our district gave us some direction with minutes for asynchronous and synchronous work. Can you give us a glimpse of what a typical day might be like once Smart Start days are over?
Absolutely. Before I jump into that, though, Zarina mentioned that she follows some people on social media, and I found that to be extremely helpful during this time. There are lots of Facebook groups. I know Facebook. Well, I'm old now, but I know that there are lots of Facebook groups that are about digital learning, or platforms that you're interested that have groups that make, they post 5 or 6 times a day that answer questions that teachers have, and they've been super helpful this time. So I think that's a great idea, Serena. As far as what my classroom is going to look like, you're right, Esther. Our district gave us some pretty strict minutes and guidelines, with some flexibility based on grade level and what the students need. Mine will look like a combination, like everybody's, of synchronous and asynchronous. Most of the morning will be live with short breaks in between. I really plan on focusing those break times or even taking breaks throughout the lessons with body breaks and movement. I know, having sat through quite a few professional developments online this summer, that I can't sit for 40 minutes. So if I can't sit for 40 minutes, how am I asking kiddos to do the same? So standing up, stretching, Go Noodle has been a great resource, all kinds of things. And actually asking kiddos to come up with what the brain breaks that they'd like to do. I know we'll have some TikTok dances in the upper grades, things like that. But something that breaks up the monotony of sitting still, right? And so it will be synchronous in the morning and then asynchronous in the afternoon with an optional live Zoom session in the afternoon to help students, particularly with mathematics. In the spring, that seemed to me to be the most difficult class to teach asynchronously. So students who, after they receive the math lesson in the morning via Zoom instruction, I will offer kind of like open office hours to help have an open Zoom room to help students navigate those challenging problems, or anything else that they might need. We can't neglect during this time that they might need some social interaction as well. We have students who are only children who are maybe old enough to stay home alone and are spending, hours and hours alone each day. And so they might just need someone to talk to, and I'm happy to be that kind of social emotional connection for them, or to facilitate them kind of creating friendships with their classmates, which is hard because we're brand new, right? Nobody knows who's in their class yet. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. So we'll have to be able to facilitate those bridges with students too. All of my assignments will be posted on Google Classroom, accessible through our learning management system of Schoology. Kids are doing stuff digitally, but I am also giving them paper pencil work to do as well. We are actually going back to cursive in 5th grade to give them a break from, I know, well, I've been doing it for a long time, but I've gotten everybody else on board now. We've gone back to cursive to give kids a break from typing in the digital screen. We're doing paper and pencil work to supplement that, kind of graphomotor skill set that's needed. The dexterity for typing is great, but kiddos, we want them still to be able to write and for it to be legible. So we're going to try that this year to give them a break. And also, focusing on other things that are maybe not traditionally academic, like the arts. My students each have a sketchbook. They get sketchbook assignments each day. They're learning about artists. They're interacting with art, whether it's digital or in front of them. And they're getting a chance to do stuff other than typing and on a learning platform. So really just trying to make it mixed for everybody to have multiple modalities, different kinds of experiences. And to still try and make it interesting and fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Rachel, how about you? What is your remote classroom going to look like?
So mine's a little bit different because I am a dual language teacher. I will be teaching half of the day. So I have 35 students and they're separated into 2 groups. So for the morning portion of the day, I have one group, and then in the afternoon, I switch to the other group, and the other dual language teacher teaches the group that I had in the morning. So I was thinking that I could have, and she would be doing similarly, we would be doing live teaching for all that time, but we would teach something, then allow the students an opportunity to work independently or collaboratively. That was probably my biggest concern. How am I going to do virtual teaching and allow the kids to collaborate? And so thankfully there's an application or program that our school pays for. It's called Skies. And it's so cool because I can have the kids in individual groups and I could see all of them at the same time virtually. And I can mute them, listen in, things like that, all at the same time.
That's great. Say the app, it's an app, right?
I think I guess I would call it a program.
Okay. What is it called again?
Skies.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Zarina, so what did your university tell you about the possible models you might enter into?
Yeah, so we were told, and I mean, I haven't had my student teaching orientation yet. That's on the 24th. But in the email, it said that, like Erica said earlier, um, information's coming, and like schools and different administrations are still sorting things out. But they told us that the plan is somewhere, hopefully in the middle of the semester, it goes into hybrid, and then we go on from there. But they're giving us the information they have, and we're just trying to keep up with all the information coming in.
Yeah. So just like Erica said, and Rachel mentioned too, yes, there is asynchronous work and synchronous lessons that our students will attend. And it is, right, Erica, it is flexible with how we want to distribute those minutes for asynchronous and synchronous. But I have to say, if I can put in my 2 cents, I think when we focus on our pedagogy and our content, right, rather than nitpicking how many minutes of asynchronous and synchronous, I think when we focus on our students and what they need and how we want to deliver the best kind of lesson, right? All of that, I think, will follow. Asynchronous minutes, synchronous minutes. That's just my 2 cents. All right. So, Erica, you touched upon it, and so did you, Rachel. Self-care, right? So, for school site, here, let me see. So for a lot of us, we're going to teach from home. And our home is our sanctuary, but now it's become our workplace too. So how are you going to manage that for yourself? Your work hours and your own personal hours, right? There has to be a balance so that we don't burn out, right? And Rachel, as a new teacher, I don't want that for you. I love what I do. I want you to love what you do, and I don't want you to burn out. So let's talk about self-care. How are you going to do that during the school year? Erica, let's start with you.
Well, I know that for myself, what I did in the spring didn't work, right? So it was very difficult for me walking, the 8 steps from my, little office here to the couch, to the kitchen, to keep that really separate. My principal is allowing us to work from the classroom. So I am going to be teaching from the classroom just myself. Hopefully that will give my days a little bit more structure. But I know that that's not available to everyone, right? And so I would say, you have a space, and if it is an office that you can shut the door, great. But for some of us, it's not. It's the kitchen table, right? And so you need to kind of take a step back and detach from it. If it means, putting all your school stuff in a basket and then tucking it under the table for the night, kind of withdrawing from that, right? The idea is leave it up and it's make a classroom in our kitchen and have the board behind us, and that's wonderful, and your students will appreciate it. But if that prevents you from being able to kind of balance your home and your work life, that might be detrimental to your self-care. So you might consider kind of making something, mobile, where that you can put it all in a basket and then make it out of sight, so that you can kind of take care of yourself and not your students. Because we know this for years, that if we don't take care of ourselves, our students can't learn, right? Your student can't learn if you're not in the classroom.
Yeah.
And whether it's emotional health, emotional well-being, or physical well-being, we need to really kind of monitor how that affects ourselves.
Yeah. How about you, Zarina? Where does self-care come in for you?
I'm still in the position as a student, so I mean, as a student, I feel like I always have reading materials, and then studying. I just always have to remind myself to take a step, give myself those little breaks, especially now that last semester I had 3 classes back to back, and I did not like sitting in one spot for long periods of time. And so I was very fortunate to have professors who were like, we're going to take a break, like get up, like walk around and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
giving myself breaks.
Yeah. And what about you, Rachel? What does self-care look like for you during your work year?
So I started hobbies that I was like, oh, I could do this long term. They're fun. So that when I'm like, it sort of promotes me setting boundaries when I like want to just work. And I'm like, oh, I can do this and make it more fun for the students. Sort of the workaholic and perfectionist in me for the classroom. And so by having another passion or saying, oh, okay, I want to dedicate time to my family because I know that's important. I think that helps me be motivated to step away as well.
Yeah. For me, I'm going to keep I'm going to keep work hours 8 to 4. I'm going to dedicate it, work really hard during that time. And then at 4 o'clock, I am signing off. And yes, focus on my family, focus on my hobbies. I'm going to go for a run. I'll go to the archery range. You know, I learned, Erica, too, that last semester it didn't work for me. I can't work 16, 18-hour days, you know, it's just, it's not healthy. So I think establishing work hours and then making it a very deliberate choice of that's it. No more emails, no more calls, no more grading, no more. And I find myself working really efficiently, really hard when I set those hours because I know I can't waste any time. So that's how I'm going to implement self-care. Teachers of all walks of life, Erica Lundy, Zarina Macia, Rachel Bonilla, thank you so much for being a part of this panel and sharing your remote learning ideas, what your remote classroom is going to be like for the new year. Good luck, teachers out there. I feel you. Oh my gosh, I'm getting kind of emotional. I feel you. I'm with you. I'm with you. We're with you. We can do this. We've worked so hard. We can do this, you guys. Our students deserve it. We're here for them, our parents, our community. We are here together and we can do this. Good luck. Yeah.